By the end of this video, we're finally gonna have a product that's ready to ship out to real customers. But first, let's quickly recap how we got here.
A couple years back, I got a little thing called TMJ disorder, which is basically when people have chronic jaw pain, tension headaches, stuff like that. For me though, it started out as jaw popping, and then progressed to locking up to the point where I couldn't even eat. It's gotten better for me since then, but when I got those flare-ups, I was told I should apply heat and massage to be able to unlock my jaw and ease the muscle pain. But looking around, I couldn't find anything to do it with. There were heating pads that didn't let you massage and couldn't hold the right temperature. Then there were Theragun type massagers that shouldn't go anywhere near your face. And then there were dildos, which almost work but don't heat up enough and aren't quite the aesthetic I look for in products I purchase. Anyways, it's my lifelong dream to design and launch my own product, and I couldn't get this idea out of my head, so I decided to do all the design, engineering, and business building all myself, while recording every step of the way. So if you're interested in my journey, go binge my other videos, they're so freaking good. At this point, we have a fully working prototype: aluminum heating tip, casing, PCB, vibration motor, battery, heating element, everything.
But that doesn't mean we have a sellable product yet. In fact, we definitely don't, which is why over the past few weeks, I've gone and redesigned everything: the mechanical, the electrical, the software. But in this video, we're just gonna look into why the design went from looking like this to this.
If you're gonna take anything away from this video, it's that when you're designing a product as a mechanical engineer, one of the most important things you have to take into consideration is design for manufacturing and assembly, or DFMA. The basic goal here is to minimize production costs while maximizing part quality and assembly efficiency. And the earlier you do this in the design process, the more headache and money you're going to save later on. So to best explain it, let's break it down into its two most basic parts: design for assembly and design for manufacturability.
DFM is all about, you guessed it, manufacturing. First, you have to dial in your guiding specifications, like what quantities will you be producing parts at? What forces will they have to withstand? Do you have a pricing model that constrains you? What tolerances are you working with? What materials will you use? These help you pick your manufacturing process, with some common ones being injection molding for plastic parts, die casting, CNC machining, 3D printing, sheet metal forming, and about a couple million hundred others. And every single process has their own rabbit hole of optimizations that machinists in China spend their whole lives perfecting.
That's why, pro tip, you should always get them involved in your design process.
Design for assembly, on the other hand, is about making component assembly as quick, simple, and most importantly, error-proof as possible.
Because as they say, what can go wrong will go wrong.
Some of the guidelines around this include standardizing and minimizing components, minimizing part reorientations during assembly, or in other words, assembling bottom up and not making the person have to flip the part over and over again. And, in general, just thinking about every single possible snag you can hit in assembly.
The thing is that while this may all sound simple in theory, in reality it's a huge balancing act, and there's rarely a right answer. So a change that you make to reduce machining time might, as a result, reduce assembly efficiency. And a change that you make to reduce the amount of components in your design might end up adding tooling costs. So let's dive in and figure out how we can improve our own design.
Before we start, we have to pick a manufacturing method. And this is a pretty complicated topic, but for our casing, we're pretty much only between 3D printing and injection molding. Right now, I'm pretty set on using 3D printing though. And I know there's a bit of a stigma around this, that 3D printing isn't for like real products, or that it's mostly a prototyping tool and not a full production process, which, most of the time is true, but I am very set on bootstrapping this entire business. Up to this point, I've pretty much spent no money, and I'm not really too keen on dropping like $10,000 on a mold when I haven't even had any real customers yet. And that's important because, the most likely scenario is that as I sell these TMJ pens, I'm gonna get some feedback and I'm gonna want to redesign. And unfortunately, if you want to redesign for injection molding, that's gonna cost you another mold. For 3D printing, totally free. So at this very early stage in a business, 3D printing is gonna let us scale up to probably up to 1,000 units without really losing too much money. And in fact, it's probably going to save us a lot of money. Bamboos are getting pretty fast these days and are very competitive compared to injection molding on price for up to like 500 units, and past that we can start thinking about something else. Anyways, end of ramble. Let's go through everything I hate about my current design.
Let's start with the tip. We got to this design by slicing a hexagonal prism at a 40-degree angle across 3 planes. The reasoning was mostly design-based, with testing to find out which shape feels best digging into jaw muscles. But the problem is that it's kind of a bad design for manufacturability. The operator has to first turn this part on a lathe, then flip it and do a super long CNC process to get the right shape, and then turn it again to drill the thermistor hole. I realized that if I made the part mostly radially symmetric, we can cut through almost all of it with a lathe, which is a much quicker and cheaper process than the CNC mill. We'll still need a hole for the thermistor to fit and a feature to prevent the tip from rotating, but that'll add minimal cost if everything else is done well. Speaking of, I made the thermistor hole too shallow because I'm an idiot, which means there's less contact area and therefore less accurate temperature sensing, which is bad. Next, let me tell you the biggest problem.
As you can see, the top walls in my design kind of taper in.
This isn't something I want to compromise on for the sake of grip and sleekness. But as we have it now, that means the PCB has to bend apart the walls to snap into place.
I'll say it, this really takes the embly right out of assembly. In an ideal world, we can slide the PCB in from the front, so we don't have to bend the walls apart when we put it in.
Kinda related, the current design is super creaky, as in it's not very rigid. A big reason is that to be able to slot the PCB in from the top, the lips that hold the top cap can't protrude that much, which makes it so you can press the top cap in. Also, if I drop the thing, for example, I guarantee the cap will just pop right off. This is where some of those trade-offs start kicking in. I originally wanted to try to make a screwless design, but I think we're going to have to budge on that. Last but not least, there is the light leakage. When we use a light-colored filament, I made the wall so thin where the PCB slots in that you can clearly see the indicator lights. And I think I want to use light-color filaments, so we'll need to fix that. Oh wait, sorry, I forgot to mention. Right now, the casing is designed to print horizontally, which is faster. But at scale, the biggest print we can do is only 10 hours long, which means that there's going to be a ton of downtime since I have a life and I don't want to be waking up in the middle of the night to switch it out. So my plan is to redesign it to print vertically, so I can fit way more parts into a single print that lasts around 48 hours, which will have 0 downtime.
Alright, those criteria already kind of change everything about our design, so let's go see where it takes us. Alright, so here's what I came up with, and it sucks you can't actually feel it because it feels so much more rigid and, in my opinion, looks better too.
With this new tip, we still maintain a nice edge to use in massage, as well as some surface area to apply heat with. The best part though, we got this price down from $2.40 each to $1.17, which shows improvement in the DFM. Oh, and also the hole goes in deeper, so the thermistor readings will be a lot more accurate. Next, as you can see, instead of using a snap-in feature like the old design, which was kind of annoying to take out, we have the cap act as the retainer, both in rotation and translation. The cap spans all the way to the front and gets screwed in here. This really helps lock in both the cap and tip. Taking the cap off, you can see exactly where we can slide the PCB into. We still have to bend the walls out a teeny bit, but now it's not really an issue. There are still a few kinks to work out, like the fact that now we have to plug the battery in after everything is already placed inside. I used metal tweezers one time and got a little magic smoke. There's also still some light leakage off the top, but that's just a matter of adding extra walls on the cap.
Alright, I'm pretty happy with this design and I kind of can't wait to try it out, which means it's time to order some aluminum prototypes. But unfortunately, the Chinese manufacturers that I'm working with take way too long. And I want to get it faster. Luckily, this video is sponsored by PCBWay, and turns out they don't just manufacture PCBs, but they also have a CNC service. So I reached out to them, and they got me couple of these beautiful little aluminum tips just in time to make this video. So thanks to them, and if you're looking for a CNC machining service.
I waited so long to finally be able to put this thing together, but of course things cannot go totally perfectly for me. The heating element samples I got from some random factory were useless. Completely wrong dimension cartridge and wrong connector. So I had to deal with old ones that I made way too long. This made fitting everything inside terrible, and the DFA test kinda useless. But whatever, it's literally been weeks of waiting. I just wanted to see it all working. So I crammed it in and oh baby, there's just something magical about all that weight in there. It feels like a real product.
That means that I won't actually be embarrassed to let people handle it. And that's a critical next step in the sales journey, because now I can actually go around and show this around to clinics and patients in real life. So pretty huge.
I also got to film a couple of the exercise tutorial videos that'll come with the device. But pause. I can't just throw out my old aluminum tips. I spent like $15 a pop on them. So I ended up redesigning the old casing a bit to be good enough to send to some people. It still ended up a bit creaky, so I put a TPU sleeve over it just in case. It looks like crap and obviously isn't scalable, so I won't send them to customers. But I've been talking to a TMJ influencer and just sent her one to take a look at in the hopes that we can get a partnership going when I start shipping. If she likes it, that'll be a huge, super targeted audience that should make sales go bananas. So I'm excited to see what she thinks.
Alright, for those of you with keen eyes, you might be looking at this and thinking, wait a second, that's not the same PCB used last video. Oh, great catch, because you're right. Just like we redesigned the casing in this episode, I also had to redesign the electronics and the software. So next video, you should subscribe, check it out, it's gonna be insane. I made a ton of changes to the circuit board, went through a few crises, so yeah, watch whatever video it suggests you and stay in touch. See ya.